TCD view of Biefeld-Brown effect. Biefeld-Brown effect is one of the effects studied by free energy researchers. What happens is that an asymmetric capacitor, for which the electrodes are of different size, starts to move in the direction of the smaller electrode. The so-called EM drive could be also based on this effect. Recently I learned of the experiments carried out by Charles Bouler's team. An acceleration of 1g is achieved for a capacitor-like system in vacuum chamber, and the effect increases rapidly with the strength of the electric field between the electrodes. This raises the question whether new physics is involved, either as a failure of the momentum conservation or as a presence of an unidentified system to which a momentum transfer takes place. In this talk I will consider TCD-based model, in which the third system is identified as an electric field body associated with the system, or both electrodes. The key idea is that electronic momentum is pumped from the electrodes to the field bodies. An electron is transferred to the field body, leaves some of its momentum to field body and robs back, and in this way gives rise to a recoil. For the smaller electrode, the quantum coherence is higher and the pumping is more effective. And this gives rise to the Biefeld-Brown effect, perhaps even in the situation when the dielectric is present. There is also a net transfer of electrons to the positive electrode. This reduces the voltage while keeping the system neutral and provides in this way allows in this way to use electrostatic energy to kick the electrons to the field bodies. This explains why the effect is stronger when the smaller electrode is positively charged. Biefeld-Brown effect and its modern variant. I will first discuss the experiment of Brown and then the experiments of Bouler. Consider first Biefeld-Brown effect. The electric fields associated with the capacitors which are asymmetric are about 30 kilovolts per decimeter. This is about 10% of the electric field, causing the electric breakdown in air. This electric field is about 1,000 times stronger than the Earth's electric field, which is therefore expected to not give any decisive contribution to the effect. The acceleration is in the direction of the smaller electrode. The effect is largest when the small electrode is positive. This might be understood if positive ionic currents are responsible for effect. The effect occurs in a dielectric medium, air. And Brown suggests that the effect indeed involves ionic motion. The effect can be used for vehicle propulsion or as a pump of the electric fluid. This is rather obvious. Center of mass acceleration is achieved. The detailed physics of the effect is not understood. There are two standard physics-based models for the effect: ionic wind model and ionic drift model. The center of mass motion should be due to the loss of energy, perhaps the loss of the electrostatic energy of capacitor system, and the momentum to the environment. Ionic wind involves no friction, and the prediction is 3 orders of magnitude too small. The effect is small since the absence of dissipation tends to reduce the effect, since the ions arriving to the opposite electrons should induce a compensating recoil. I must admit that I don't really understand that there is any effect at all. My understanding is very naive here. Then there is ionic drift mode. It predicts an order of magnitude which is consistent with the findings. The modeling of the situation in the electric reliably is, however, difficult. Consider now the findings of the group of Charles Böhler. Böhler's team has been developing the propulsion based on asymmetric capacitor-like systems. Understood in very general sense, the two electrodes can be very different from capacitor plates, but are asymmetric. The second electrode is small. The experimental arrangement looks like follows. Electric field is more intense at the small electrode, and this is believed to be responsible for the effect. In the experiments of Brown, the effect was larger when the smaller electrode was positively charged. I'm not sure about this. I would guess that it is so also now. The electrons are cased so that there is no leakage of charge between them. This prevents all kinds of leakage currents between the electrode and poses an additional challenge: how the charge can be transferred between the electrodes if the ordinary mechanisms are not possible. The system is enclosed in high vacuum, and this allows to use lower voltages. There are profound differences between the situation in the recent experiment and experiments of Brown. First of all, in standard physics, the center of mass of an isolated system must remain at rest, no acceleration. Now the system is in a vacuum chamber and there is no charge leakage between the electrodes. But there is center of mass acceleration. There should exist momentum and energy exchange with some unidentified system which we could call X. Charges and or radiation should leave the electrode to produce recoil. And recoils would not compensate for each other. This is highly non-trivial condition. The asymmetry of the system and also the transfer of momentum to this X could guarantee this. Mere charge and electric field are enough to generate a thrust, and there is no external electric field. The electrostatic energy should provide the needed energy. Two types of charges are involved: the free charge in conductors and the bound charge appearing in insulators. Bound charge could correspond to valence electrons, which do not become conduction electrons in case of insulators. In this process, they could become something new, perhaps associated with this unidentified system X. At low voltages, free charge dominates conduction electrons, and at higher voltages, bound charge dominates. The increase of the effect is dramatic. Okay, what could happen to the electrons? Without a transfer of electron momentum to the degrees of freedom of system X, the generation of the center of mass momentum is impossible. The electrons transferred to X end up to the opposite electrode or drop back to the original electrode. And in this process, pump momentum X to X. If some part of momentum is left there, it be either due to friction ohmic losses, or it could go to the internal degrees of freedom. The asymmetry suggests that the pumping from the smaller electrode is more effective. Suppose that the electrons get their energy from the electrostatic energy of a capacitor-like system, and the net charge of the system remains zero, as looks natural. This requires that there is a net transfer of negative charge to the positive electrode to keep the net charge vanishing and to reduce the voltage. It is indeed easy to see that the accumulation of negative charge to X is not possible. It would generate compensating positive charge to the capacitor-like system. Therefore, the momentum of electrons must be decimated or transferred to some internal degrees of freedom of X. One can't exclude the possibility that some fraction of electrons remain to X for a relatively long time. The capacitor system would in this case experience a force in the electric field of Earth. System X plus capacitor type system would behave like an electric dipole in the electric field of Earth. Since the Earth is negatively charged, the force on capacitor-like system would tend to decrease the thrust. It would be directed towards Earth. Consider first the basic ideas of the TGD-based model of Biefeld-Brown effect. There are 4 key elements which I want to discuss briefly next. The first new key element is a new view of space-time and fields, provided by topological geometry or dynamics. Geometric vision leads to a new view of space-time. Space-time would be a 4-dimensional surface in certain hyperspace, which is 8-dimensional. It is Minkowski space, the space-time of special relativity, with points replaced by CP2, complex projective space, which is 4-dimensional. This implies that space-time is topologically non-trivial in all scales. I speak of many-seated space-time. The space-time surfaces have finite size and their boundaries correspond to the boundaries of physical objects. This is something very different from the view of general relativity. Space-time surfaces can be seen as orbits or particles, identified as free surfaces, which by 4-dimensional general coordinate invariance must satisfy holography. They are analogous to Bohr orbits or particles. This has enormous implications for the theory, and the generalization of point-like particle to free surface brings in size and shape as dynamical degrees of freedom. The new view of classical fields is also brought by TGD. The classical fields associated with physical systems correspond to finite space-time regions, sheets. One can talk of field identity or field body, or about magnetic body, electric body, also gravitational field body. These field bodies have size and shape, and they have flux tubes and flux sheets as body parts. This is essential for the entire phenomenology of TGD in applications. Field body has as its body parts flux tubes and also flux sheets. TGD predicts 2 kinds of magnetic flux tubes and also electric flux tubes. Monopole flux tubes have a closed cross-section. This is not possible in Minkowski space. And they are closed. This reflects Maxwell's equations, no free magnetic charges. Maxwellian half-monopole magnetic flux tubes are also possible. They have boundary. It could be disc-like shape, this cross-section. And they need not be closed. They would be these Maxwellian things. And could be important in the temperature region above the transition temperature in the case of high TC superconductors. In superconductivity, they would become monopole flux tubes. Monopole flux tubes are in a key role in the TGD-based quantum biology and also in cosmology and so on, superconductivity included. There are magnetic and electric flux tubes. Electric flux tubes are very near to magnetic flux tubes. They are obtained as a small deformation of the magnetic flux tubes, so that these monopole flux tubes would have also magnetic fields. And I already mentioned these two kinds of flux tubes, monopole flux tubes and the Maxwellian ones. The third important new ingredient is hierarchy of Planck constants. It labels the phases of ordinary matter behaving like dark matter and residing at field bodies. This dark matter is not galactic dark matter. It would be responsible for mysterious missing baryonic matter whose portion has been increasing during cosmology. And whereas galactic dark matter would be dark inertia in the TGD framework. This hierarchy of Planck constants is predicted by number theoretic vision of TGD, which is something totally new. In standard physics, one does not have number theoretic as a fundamental element. The larger the value of effective Planck constant is, the longer the quantum coherence lengths are. And field bodies can be macroscopic quantum systems for large enough values of effective Planck constant. The algebraic complexity also increases with this effective Planck constant. This is essentially the dimension of algebraic extension of rationals, characterizing the space-time region in question. When you have polynomials of some degree, its roots define algebraic extension of rationals, and the higher the dimension, the more complex the system. This gives rise to evolutionary hierarchy. And the field body serves as a boss over a system to which it is associated, say biosystem. And it also induces a coherence of the ordinary biomatter. This is not a quantum coherence, but induced by quantum coherence in long scales. TGD predicts that classical gravitational fields of the Sun, Earth, planets, also other planets, they are responsible for very large values of effective Planck constant. I call this gravitational Planck constant. For ordinary particles associated with the gravitational monopole flux tubes. Same applies to macroscopic electric fields, for instance Earth's electric field. Now I talk about electromagnetic Planck constant. Examples are electric fields of DNA, cell, ionospheres of Earth and Sun, and also large capacitor-like systems, in particular this Biefeld-Brown system. And electrons at monopole flux tubes for capacitor-like systems could be electrons, dark electrons, and this system would be this system X, about which I talked earlier. Pollack effect is the fourth new element in the model. The energies of quantum systems increase with effective Planck constant. And this means that the increase of effective Planck constant to kick them to the field body requires energy. In biology, this would be metabolic energy. And Pollack effect would provide this energy. In the Pollack effect, water is irradiated with electromagnetic radiation at visible and infrared frequencies. This induces a transfer of every fourth proton somewhere, flux tubes in the TGD framework, and a generation of exclusion zone. It has negative charge, it has stoichiometry H 1.50. It forms a layer-like structure generated by two-dimensional hexagonal lattices. And also it seems to have reversed arrow of thermodynamic time. It excludes impurities. And the proposal is that the protons go to the magnetic body or field body of the system and become dark protons with a very large value of effective Planck constant. More precise identification would be as gravitational magnetic body of Earth or Sun, so that planetary and solar physics would have important role in quantum biology. Pollack effect generalizes. The energy needed to increase effective Planck constant, it can come also from the formation of molecules as bound states of atoms. This could be essential for the formation of biomolecules and would mean a new kind of chemistry, allowing to understand the origin of biomolecules, basic biomolecules. Also, electrons can be transferred to dark electrons at the magnetic or electric bodies. And in the case of capacitor-like systems, electrostatic energy could make possible the increase of effective Planck constant. Consider next basic assumptions of the TGD's model. The basic assumptions of the model reflect the observations already made. First of all, conduction electrons and valence electrons, they would be transferred to the flux tubes of electric field body as dark charges by the generalized Pollack effect. The effect is present in absence of external currents. This suggests that only electrostatic energy is used to induce the effect. This requires that the voltage decreases, and this in turn requires that there is charge transfer to the negative electrode, from the negative electrode to the positive electrode via field body. Only momentum transfer to the field body is possible by dissipation or by transfer to its internal non-thermal degrees of freedom. The large value of effective Planck constant suggests that dissipation is rather small. The electrons transferred to the field body from a given electrode can end up either to the opposite electrode or back to the original electrode. This makes possible generation of recoil momentum by pumping, in the case that some momentum is left to the field body. Pumping is must be more effective for a small electrode. This mechanism might be at work also when the dielectric is present. One can wonder whether the field body is associated with a capacitor-like system alone or with a larger system. One can think that the field body of Earth is also involved. For a capacitor-like field body, the motion is possible only in a rather limited region. This poses strong constraints on the applications. For electric body of Earth, larger scale motion could be possible, perhaps below the lower boundary of ionosphere. 100 kilometers is the order of magnitude for a distance. The natural assumption is that the relevant part of the field body is located to the interior of the electrons. If the field body consists of monopole flux tubes, electric monopole flux tubes, then one has new mechanism of electron transfer, so that the casing would prevent this. It would be in dark degrees of freedom. Okay, the net momentum which is transferred should be parallel to a given monopole flux tube. This is rather natural from classical point of view. The recoil momentum is in opposite direction. The asymmetry favors momentum transfer directed towards the opposite electrode. And therefore the flux tubes should indeed reside in the intermediate region. Recoil momentum would be away from the opposite electrode, and the small electrode should give rise to a large recoil momentum. The effect would demonstrate the existence of monopole flux tubes as one aspect of this new physics. It is not quite obvious whether the effects need be large when the smaller electrode is positively charged. This is observed in Biefeld-Brown effect. However, if electrodes have opposite charges and the smaller electrode is positive, there is a net transfer of electrons to the positive electrode. Consider next a model for a capacitor-like system. The model for the capacitor-like system is inspired by the model for the electric body of Earth. TCD predicts a large-scale quantum coherence for charge systems with long-range electric fields. This could be highly relevant for the effect. The electric Planck constant for a pair formed by a charged particle with a charge E electron and bi-charged system with charge Q capacitor plate is given proportional to the product of charges Q and E, and it is divided by velocity parameter which is not larger than one when one uses light velocity as unit. One could assume that the values of velocity parameter are same for electrodes and the value is maximal 1. This assumption seems to work in many applications at the surface of Earth. This effective electromagnetic Planck constant would characterize charged particle at the electric field body, at the flux tubes. Electric field strength rather than voltage is relevant for the effect. The charge of the capacitor is electric flux, essentially, and in roughest approximation product of electric field strength and surface area of the capacitor plate. And the effect would become large for strong field strengths. And this suggests that the transfer of charges to the electric body is a collective quantum effect, with a rate which is proportional to the square of the number of electrons transferred quantum coherently, rather than electron number itself, as in absence of quantum coherence. If the increase of voltage And in the experiments of Boole's team is achieved by keeping the size of system constant, as I believe the dramatic increase of the thrust could be understood in this way. Macroscopic quantum coherence essentially. There is also second parameter, electric Compton length. It is obeys same formula as ordinary Compton length, except that Planck constant is replaced by effective Planck constant, electromagnetic Planck constant, and it is proportional to product of charges, inversely proportional to velocity parameter and mass of electron in recent case. An interesting point is that for proton, this length is by a factor 1/2000 shorter than for electron, and this would explain why electrons, why not ions or protons. And this suggests also that in these original experiments it might be electrons and the same mechanism which would be responsible for Biefeld-Brown effect. Hitherto I have assumed that only valence electrons can become dark, and this is consistent with this. Can one assume that the entire electrodes form quantum coherent systems? Or should one assume that only the flux tubes are such systems? The entire electrodes need not be quantum coherent systems. This was found in the case of electric field of Earth. It is of course possible that a bundle of flux tube inside larger flux tube forms a quantum coherent system. So, if only a single flux tube is a quantum coherent system, a natural first guess would be that the flux tube radius d is roughly equal to the electric Compton length, so that one would have a formula in which this radius is proportional to the charge of the capacity divided by the mass, and the charge would be proportional to electric field and surface area. By using values velocity parameter equal to 1 and electric field 300 kilovolts per meter, as in these Brown experiments, one obtains an estimate which is 24.3 centimeters if the scale of if the area is decimeter squared. This, at least to me, this makes sense. The orders of magnitude are sensical. If the smaller electrode corresponds to a single flux tube, it decomposes to smaller flux tubes near a larger electrode, giving rise to smaller quantum coherent units. And the ratio of charges Q large over Q small is ratio inverse of the corresponding ratio for surface areas. And this would mean that the quantum coherence, large degree of quantum coherence at the smaller electrode. At larger electrode there would be some number of these quantum coherent flux tubes, and each would, the sum of the contributions from these would give the total contribution. Here one would have single flux tubes, and the contribution would be very roughly like square of this contribution from large flux tubes. So that it would explain the basic observation why the small electrodes are responsible for the effect. Why the smaller electrode gains a larger momentum, recoil momentum. The geometric asymmetry of electrodes, or more precisely, the convergence of flux tubes at the small electrodes, is believed to somehow explain the thrust towards the smaller electrode. One can imagine several options, but the following is perhaps the simplest one. Suppose that the flux tubes are U-shaped closed monopole flux tubes connecting the electrodes either via a region between the electrodes. Assume that electrons are transferred to dark electrons at these flux tubes, and the transfer of electrons to field body and back pumps the momentum to the field body and induces recoil effect at both electrodes. The simplest assumption is that smaller single flux tube acts as quantum coherent systems, so that for this single flux tube the effect would be proportional. The rate of pumping would be proportional to the square of the number of electrons. Suppose also that the smaller electrode corresponds to single coherent units, which splits to several ones near a larger electrode whose area is larger than the area of the quantum coherent region. Therefore, the charges associated with the flux tubes at smaller and larger electrode, they are inversely proportional to the areas of the electrodes. And this would predict that the quantum rate is much larger at the smaller electrode. I actually explained this more or less already. The rates would be in ratio which is square of the ratio of areas. This would explain why asymmetry is important. Also, the net transfer of negative charge to the positively charged electrode when total charge over the capacitor system remains vanishing, such that the effect is larger for a positively charged smaller electrode. Of course, this model involves large uncertainties, but avoids obvious conflicts with what I have learned about this effect.